Nova Scotia stretches into the Atlantic as a long, narrow province shaped by water. Harbors open directly to the ocean. Fishing boats move between islands, and coastal roads follow a shoreline that rarely feels far away. From the air and from the ground, the connection between land and sea defines nearly every scene. As a travel destination, Nova Scotia offers a mix of historic port cities, small coastal communities, agricultural valleys, and protected natural areas. Halifax functions as the main gateway, combining a working harbor with museums, waterfront paths, and access to surrounding coastline. Farther along the shore, places like Peggy's Cove and Lunenburg reflect older maritime traditions, where lighthouses, wooden architecture, and fishing culture remain central to the visitor experience. Inland, the Annapolis Valley introduces a different rhythm, shaped by farmland, vineyards, and seasonal harvests, while Cape Breton Highlands National Park shifts the focus toward highlands, cliffs, and long-distance scenic drives. Along the Bay of Fundy, extreme tides reshape the coastline daily, creating landscapes that change with the hour rather than the season. Climate plays a quiet but important role in how travel works here. Nova Scotia has a cooler, ocean-moderated climate compared to much of inland Canada. Summers are generally mild rather than hot, while winters tend to be less severe than in the prairies or central provinces, though coastal storms and strong winds are common. Fog, shifting light, and rapidly changing weather are part of the region's character, especially near the ocean, and they influence everything from photography to driving conditions. Taken together, the pattern becomes clear. Tourism in Nova Scotia is less about a single landmark and more about movement between contrasting environments: urban waterfronts, fishing villages, farmland, and rugged coastline. Each area supports a different kind of travel, yet all are linked by geography and by the sea. With that context in place, it's time to look more closely at these locations and see how each one shapes the experience of the province. As the capital of Nova Scotia, Halifax serves as the province's primary point of arrival and orientation. The city developed around one of the world's largest natural harbors, and that geography still shapes how it functions today. Commercial shipping, naval activity, and tourism all share the same waterfront, creating a place where history and daily life overlap rather than separate. The downtown core remains closely tied to the harbor, with boardwalks, museums, and public spaces built directly along the water's edge. What defines Halifax as a travel destination is this balance between scale and access. It is large enough to offer cultural institutions, restaurants, and year-round events, yet compact enough that the coastline never feels distant. Historic sites connected to immigration, wartime activity, and maritime trade help explain why the city exists here in the first place, while nearby beaches, islands, and coastal trails pull visitors beyond the urban center. Halifax works less as a final destination and more as a starting point, setting the rhythm for how the rest of the province is explored. Leaving the city, the landscape begins to open almost immediately. Urban streets give way to rocky shoreline, low vegetation, and small coves shaped by wind and waves. The road follows the Atlantic, and the sense of exposure increases with every kilometer. This gradual transition leads to Peggy's Cove, one of the most recognizable coastal locations in eastern Canada. Peggy's Cove is defined by its setting rather than its size. Smooth granite rocks stretch directly into the ocean, offering little separation between land and sea. The lighthouse stands as a navigational marker in an environment where weather can change quickly and conditions are rarely gentle. The surrounding village remains small and functional, historically tied to fishing and coastal life rather than tourism alone. What draws visitors here is not complexity, but clarity. The raw interaction between rock, water, and sky, with very little in between. Along this coast, communities formed around navigation, fishing, and survival. Lunenburg reflects this pattern in a more structured way. The town developed as a planned settlement, with its streets and colorful wooden buildings arranged along the harbor. Shipbuilding and offshore fishing shaped both its economy and its identity, leaving a legacy that remains visible in architecture, waterfront infrastructure, and local museums. Today, Lunenburg functions as both a working harbor and a preserved historic town. Its recognition as a UNESCO World Heritage Site highlights the consistency of its layout and construction, offering insight into how Atlantic communities were designed to support maritime industries. Visitors encounter a place where tourism exists alongside everyday activity, rather than replacing it. Boats still come and go, workshops remain active, and the harbor continues to define the town's relationship with the sea. Nova Scotia is not shaped by the ocean alone. Moving away from the exposed coastline, the land begins to soften, and a different pattern emerges in the Annapolis Valley. Sheltered between mountain ranges and influenced by tidal systems, this region has long supported agriculture at a scale uncommon elsewhere in the province. Fertile soil, moderate temperatures, and predictable seasons have made the valley a center for orchards, vineyards, and small farming communities. Tourism here follows that landscape. Travel shifts from lighthouses and rocky shores to rural roads, farmland, and small towns built around seasonal cycles. Wineries, local markets, and historic settlements reflect a slower pace, where visitors tend to move between short drives rather than long coastal stretches. As the land rises again, the landscape becomes more dramatic. On Cape Breton Island, roads climb into the highlands and begin to trace the edge of cliffs and valleys within Cape Breton Highlands National Park. Travel here is defined as much by movement as by destination. Long, winding drives reveal repeated shifts between forested plateaus, open ocean views, and deep river canyons, often within the same stretch of road. The experience is built around scale and exposure. Elevated viewpoints open suddenly, while fog, wind, and changing light constantly alter the scenery. Rather than focusing on individual landmarks, visitors are drawn to the overall rhythm of the drive, how the road rises, curves, and reconnects with the coastline. It is a landscape that encourages continuous motion, where the journey itself becomes the main attraction. This relationship between land and water reaches its most extreme expression at the Bay of Fundy. Here, The coastline is reshaped daily by some of the highest tides in the world. Cliffs, rock formations, and beaches are transformed as water levels rise and fall, creating a constantly changing environment rather than a fixed view. Timing becomes part of the travel experience, with access, scale, and perspective shifting throughout the day. Tourism in the Bay of Fundy is built around this natural cycle. Visitors come not only to see the landscape, but to understand how movement of water defines it. Coastal walks, viewpoints, and small communities all orient themselves around the tides, reinforcing a sense that the environment here is active rather than static. It serves as a closing counterpoint to the province as a whole, highlighting how geography, climate, and motion work together to shape Nova Scotia's identity. Seen as a whole, Nova Scotia reveals itself through movement rather than spectacle. Coastal cities connect directly to fishing villages, farmland gives way to highlands, and long drives link environments that feel distinct but closely related. The province does not rely on a single landmark or defining image. Instead, it offers a sequence of places shaped by water, weather, and geography, each contributing to how travel unfolds. What becomes clear is how consistently the landscape influences daily life and tourism. Harbors determine where cities formed, tides reshape coastlines, and elevation changes redefine how distance is experienced. Roads, ferry routes, and coastal highways are not just connections between destinations, but part of the experience itself. Travel here is measured as much in transitions as in arrivals. Nova Scotia's character emerges in these shifts, from open ocean to sheltered valley, from quiet rural roads to exposed cliffside drives. It is a destination built on contrast, where scale changes quickly but continuity remains. The province rewards patience, observation, and an understanding of how land and sea interact. If this kind of travel storytelling resonates with you, consider subscribing to WanderWay for more documentary-style journeys. Liking the video also helps support the channel and future explorations.